Hi guys, I hope um, you guys can hear me well, see me well. Anyone just put one in the chat for me to confirm that you can hear me well, see me well. That's the most important thing. Perfect. Okay, Joe. So before I proceed, I just want to let you guys know that the webinar, whatever you like to call it, the workshop was scheduled to be around 1 p.m. Eastern, but due to some unexpected circumstances, there will be a power outage in my area, so I had to go live as soon as possible. That's what I'm recommended to do. So instead of pushing it back, I thought of why don't I start go live right now and make sure to deliver what I promised today. You know, and at the same time, I know there were like more than 85 registrants, and I could hardly see 26 of you guys right now. Sorry for, such scenario happened, but no worries. What I'm going to do is, since not all of you guys are here, so what I decided to do is, what I decided is to kind of break this entire strategy down into two parts. Part one will be all about strategy, and part two will be all about the execution. Okay, so today is a part one. And people who didn't able to join it today, I'm going to send the replay as soon as possible. So you can go over this, be clear on what your next steps are, so that we can next week join again for the part two, where we'll do execute the disrupt content together. All right. So today is part one, where we only focus around the strategy itself. I'm going to show you this my screen real quick, so it makes sense. Hope my screen is visible. Just someone in the chat, please let me know. Perfect. All right, so today is the disrupt content strategy, part one. So if you look at the roadmap, here we have two parts. Part one is we are doing it today. And next week, maybe on Wednesday or Thursday onwards, I'll let you guys know, for those of you guys who have purchased the ticket for the part one, for exactly when and how we're going to execute the part two next week. All right. So if you look at the roadmap, this is kind of 30,000 feet overview. So in part one, what we're going to do today is we're going to find the big mistakes that I see coaches, consultants, you name it, entrepreneurs, content marketers do it while they're creating content. So we're going to find like the top mistakes that I see almost when I look at content, when I scroll through the feed to see, okay, these are the mistakes, these are the leaks. So what we're going to do is we're going to find those leaks. That's number one. Number two, we're going to make sure we fill the gap and flip the signal, like totally how to get rid of this particular flaws that you have in your content, and how to kind of fill the gap and make sure there's no leak in your content anymore. So we're going to flip the signal. Now, how we're going to do it, there are two strategies that we're going to be discussing on our workshop today, to exactly how to flip the signal. And finally, I'm going to help you build out your one-page content map, so you'll always be confident and sure exactly what kind of content to post. You'll never ever come across any confusion of what to post, when to post, and how to post. All right. So that's the agenda for today. Whereas on part two, next week, we're going to be executing the strategy, like activating the 4-day strategy. That's what I call it. And then creating the disrupt content using the strategy, the prompts, and all the tools that we're going to be designing to using today, that I want you to create on your end as well, to kind of flip the signal. And finally, when you execute this, you're going to find your inbound leads rolling in, maybe in 48 to 72 hours. Okay. So I'm super excited. Guys, let me know if you're excited. Put something in the chat, put a fire emoji in the chat, and let's get started. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Love the vibe, guys. Awesome. Okay, so part one, today's goal is we're going to build out your content strategy so you never question what you should post about next day, tomorrow, future, right? Now, in order to do that, we're gonna firstly go over the quick, what I call this messaging matrix. Messaging audit, where I'm gonna show you some like good signs and bad signs of messaging. And I want you guys to let me know in the chat if you feel the same in your content. If not, it's really good, because we're gonna start with the bad messaging practices, or the bad messaging feelings that you get, like the things that you get if you have bad messaging in your content, and then move on to the good messaging thing. All right. Now there will be like 10 examples of bad messaging, and there will be 10 examples of good messaging. So I'll go through each of them one by one. And I want you to point down, like number one, number two in the chat, if you feel that this is what you kind of experienced because of in your content, because of your bad messaging. All right. So let's go over one of them one by one. So these are the signs of bad messaging. Okay. So we have 10, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the next row we have 5 more. Okay, so this is number one. Now, guys, if you experience any of these, like just number it down like this. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, just like that. If you feel okay, you're not getting this particular outcome from your content, that is, this is one of the leak that you have in your content. So put that leak number, okay, in the chat for me. All right. So here are some signs of bad messaging. Number one, you feel like you're posting consistently, but you're not getting sales. You're not getting inbound leads from your content. Have you ever felt that you're kind of posting your content every single day, every single week? But if I think about, getting leads out of the content, getting people to raise their hand, getting back to you is not consistent enough and predictable enough. If that's the case, there is a leak in your messaging that needs to be taken care to get your content to the next level. If you ever experience that, if you feel, okay, if I'm putting out 5 content in a week, 4 of them is not working, maybe 1 is getting a few leads. If that's the scenario, put 1 in the chat. So I'll be able to identify this is one of the leaks that you have in your messaging. We're going to be fixing that. All right. Okay, I see a lot of ones. Oh my God. Great. No worries, guys. No worries. I'll show you how to fix it. Number 2, you're getting followers. If you're on Instagram, if you're on LinkedIn, where it's more of a follower-based platform, you feel that you're putting out content, you're getting followers, but they're not the right ones. They're the wrong ones. They might be your colleagues, your competitors, or maybe someone trying to sell you, because if you're putting out content and if we're getting people to kind of follow us, and when we are actually focused around having conversation with them and they're not getting back to us, or even if they are reaching out to us up front, they're trying to sell us. If that's a scenario, you're attracting wrong people from your content because your messaging is not up to there. So that's a sign for bad messaging. If you've experienced that, put 2 in the chat. Okay. All right, guys, no worries. We'll fix that. I promise you. Number 3, you think that you are getting dream followers, that is your people that you think are your potential clients, future potential clients, but they don't reach out. You feel like you're getting enough good followers. You see their profile, you see, okay, these are the people that are on, in my radar, comes under my perfect future client avatar, but they're not reaching out to me. So you might be sending connection request on LinkedIn to those people that you believe is in your target audience, but they're not reaching out to you. That's a sign of bad messaging. All right. Because if your messaging is up to the point, can pretty much guarantee you in certainty that you'll be getting inbound leads from your content, 100%. All right. So that's number 3. Let's move on. Number 4, if you feel like you need sales calls to close high ticket clients, again, that's a signal of bad messaging. Because right now, I'm never going to say that, okay, I've been there and been using sales call throughout my coaching life experience in my business for last 5 years. It's been near about 7-8 months where I stopped taking sales calls and I close high ticket deals in my DMs itself, in the message itself. And you know why that happened? It's not because of the amazing Google Doc that I shared. It's not because of the amazing offer with crazy guarantees that I have, but it happened only because I kind of pre-sold my content. I mean, pre-sold my clients using my content with my good messaging, with my targeted messaging. That's the most important thing. If you feel that you need to convince a lot, if you think you need to handle a lot of objections, like I think about it, they give those objections, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. I'll talk to my wife regarding this. You're getting those kind of objections. Those are not your objections. That means they're not trusting you yet. It feels like you are just another coach talking out, shouting out loud in your megaphone, just like every other coaches in your industry. You need to dog whistle to get those people towards you. If you're shouting on your megaphone, you're going to be attracting random people in, and hence no one's going to be the laser focused client that you would like to attract. Your authentic clients, you would rather call soulmate clients, you would love to attract. So that's if you kind of like, if you have to shout out to your audience, Don't use megaphone, use dog whistle to get those aligned people towards you. And that can be done with messaging again. Okay. So I know most of you guys are still closing deals on sales calls. So I know there'll be lots of number fours in the chat. So I'm not going to open the chat for this. Okay. Number five, you feel that your prospects are regularly letting you know that I'll come back or I can't afford it. Objections again, which is kind of a similar to point number four. As you know, it's not because they are not able to afford it. They're not seeing exactly what is it like what's one thing that's going to help them. You know, if they feel, okay, I can't afford it, your content, your messaging, everything that you do online need to think, kind of get them to rethink about their decision, challenge their belief, and let them say, what is the cost of not getting into this program? You know, that's the most important thing. And if you're not doing that in your content, that's a sign, that's a leak in your content. Next, number six, attract unaligned clients. This is really, really common. And in my experience, I've done this a lot. Like, I attracted random people, people who falls in my target audience, but I believe they could pay me. And I was happy to work with anyone who could pay me, pay me thousands of dollars. But the problem in this case is these are the people who's going to pay you not because of who you are, not because of your ideas, not because of your values and principle. These guys are paying you for your big promises, crazy guarantees that you offer, because these are the people who are like window shoppers looking out for the best promise, the best crazy guarantee out there in the market. So they're not your aligned clients, and hence they just buy your program, get into your program, not because of you, your ideology, your process of helping them get the results. They're just there because of the crazy promise that you made, and they don't trust you enough. They're just trusting on the guarantee that you mentioned, and they're just waiting for the guarantee to expire, and then they could reach out. And because they're skeptic about themselves, they're skeptic about the process itself. Hence, when you tell them to take actions, they won't take actions, and as a result of that, they charge back, they ask for refund, they leave your program in between. That's what happens if you're not attracting the right people. Ever felt that, guys? Let me know. I have experienced this a lot in my career so far. Amazing. Next one. Inbound leads are generic and cold. Like, if you're creating content that maybe you're getting few hand raises on your content, but when it turns out that you're having a conversation with them, you're finding them like they're ghosting you, or they're very, very cold, they don't know about you, or they don't know about your process, they're just there to get the freebie. In that case, you're just attracting freebie seekers. They might be inbound leads, but those are freebie seekers. You don't care about them at all. So that's a sign of bad messaging. Okay. Because let me give an example here. If I create content on, okay, how to lose weight without putting on your favorite food, I won't be attracting my aligned clients in that case, because there are everybody out there, Tom, Dick, and Harry, who would love to lose their weight without sacrificing on their food. So they're only there to get that freebie from you, and that's how you're attracting freebie seekers. Instead, if you can think differently, kind of shift people's belief, like, okay, you're looking to lose weight, but finding it difficult to, sacrifice your best food or pizza, whatever, if you can be specific, and you're told to go to gym 3 days a week. And if you just, let's say, I'm just making things up, in that case, you are taught the wrong thing. If that's the hook, it would make people think a bit, hence they read out the next few lines. Don't worry about how we create content. That's the execution part. That's strategy part two of this entire process. So today we just focus on the strategies and make sure you get it. That's the most important thing, because you need to understand the leaks in your content. Otherwise, you won't be able to fix it. Okay, so these are the signs that you're not having the content up to the mark, and hence you're not getting leads reaching out to you. All right. Next, leads or asking about your offer and pricing, because you might experience this. Let's say you're having a conversation with a prospect in the chat, in the DMs, and you find the prospect to be skeptic, asking too many questions. You're asking about your price, or if you're trying to get someone on a call with you, they're saying, okay, what the price looks like, because they're just skeptic because they had a bad experience with this kind of a thing in the past. So that's an example of you're attracting people without they're getting attracted to you without them experiencing your thoughts, your values, your principles, your big ideas, your mechanisms. They're only here to get the thing out of, I mean, a lead magnet or whatever the thing is. Or if you start a conversation with them, a cold DMs, they're just there responding to your cold DM. They're not there with intent. Hence, your content is not doing what's requires from it to do. Your content needs to do the heavy lifting. Next, number 9, too wide variety in leads you attract. This is what happened to me as well. I was creating content for different segment of audience. I was talking to beginner coaches, I was talking to intermediate coaches, I was talking to consultants, I was talking to content creators, agency owners. So I had a variety of audience, but not laser focused audience, which I would love to have. Okay, because it tells you that the law tells you that you should speak to one particular avatar, and I was attracting random folks out there, which is not the right thing. There is a gap, 100%. And lastly, leads see you as an option. This is the most common option, common out of all these 10, I believe so, because the leads are kind of doing window shopping. They're looking for the coaches who's having the brilliant, crazy offer with X number of deliverables and unlimited guarantees or crazy guarantee, I don't know. And if they find, okay, the risk is less, that's they were going to invest in. If that's the case, they're looking at you as an option, not the option. Okay, that's the most important thing. So if you're having any of these signs in your content, that's because your messaging is not to the point. All right, now let me show you what happens if you have everything. If you take care of the bad messaging and make it turn to be create content that that is created just for your soulmate clients. So those are going to be exactly a sign of good messaging. Here's some examples for you. Number 1, people will respond with you. So you're going to get inbound DMs, from your soulmate clients reaching out to you and saying, hey, are you in my head? Are you creating content just for me? I get lots of DMs like this, because I speak to a very specific person talking about the very specific thing using my philosophy and the things that they experience in their daily life, the frustrations. We are being very, very specific here, talking about the micro problem, not a macro problem. So don't worry, we're going to talk about that in the next session, but this is one of them. If your messaging is up to the mark in your content, you'll get people reaching out to you, your inbound leads, letting you know that are you talking to them? This is amazing. Okay, number 2, you get most new followers who fit your criteria of your soulmate client avatar. Because I'm not here to actually help every coaches and consultants here. I have a soulmate avatar that I'm looking to help. Now there are different characteristics in that particular avatar, and I find 90% of the people that I attract comes under that particular avatar. That makes a lot of sense. Next, you gotta get consistent or even daily inbound leads. Right now, with the content that I post every day, I get near about 1 to 2 inbound leads every day. So the inbound leads are high quality leads. They're reaching out to me and saying, am I talking to them? Or number 2, they're asking me how they can work with me. If that's what you want to do in your content, you need to be very, very clear and thorough in your messaging. All right. Number 4, you're going to close clients with ease, even without sales call, without having to convince them, handle objections, or hard sell using crazy guarantees and your offer. Because your messaging, I'll tell you one thing here, because people believe that sales and marketing are two different things. They believe, okay, sales can be executed when they have people on a sales call. Whereas what I say is, sales and marketing very well goes hand in hand. The sale actually starts in your content itself, from your content itself. Okay. So if you're selling them, you're kind of pre-selling them in your content, you don't have to convince them at all. They're already sold into you, because people buy coaches, not coaching again, right? They're sold into you, your big ideas, your philosophy. That actually moves the needle faster. All right. Next, less objections and smaller objection, as I mentioned earlier. No need to go over it. Number 6, clients just going to be like your friends. They're going to stay longer with you and helping you boost your monthly recurring revenue. That's amazing. Next, inbound leads share their life story and use your phrases, which is your currency language. So in my world, I talk about big ideas, my mechanisms, attracting soulmate clients, no pushing, no force at all, no cold DMs. So those are my currency terms that I use every now and then in my content, my messaging, the way I speak, everything that I do. Exactly. Those are the people, when I do, which I do attract, uses the same currency language because they feel they are a part of this tribe. And I call my tribe the contrarian coaches, you know. So we think different. We have our own contrarian opinion around everything that we do. So yeah, we share a tribe. And if you find if your content is not helping people to be a part of that particular tribe, there has to be a fix in your content strategy. More important, your messaging strategy. Next, leads find and buy from you quicker, even in days or weeks. I have clients, you know, who discovered me 48 hours ago, binged some of my content, reached out to me saying, "Hey, are you talking to me?" Then wanted to know exactly how I can help. I sent them the doc. They paid me the money without even getting on a call. And it happened in 48 hours. Not only once, multiple times. I have multiple clients doing that. Shout out to Larry. You are one of them. You're on the call, right? So yes, that's important. Next, as I discussed about this earlier, you know, leads fit a mold, less random variety. You're going to be attracting your soulmate avatars from your content. And lastly, leads see you as the only option, not options. You know, they're not going to do window shopping because they're sold onto you. And you know, people buy coaches, as I said earlier, not coaching. So if they're sold onto you, your identity, your principles, your big ideas, your program is just the next step for them. All right. So these are the signs, 10 good messaging signs that you would love to have in your content, from your content. You know, you want these outcomes. Now, to get these outcomes, you need to be very, very clear on your messaging. Okay. So that's what we are about to fix. Okay. In this particular call, a workshop. Now, before I do that, I want to start with the 10 mistakes, you know, big mistakes. You know, these are the traps that you got to fix. You know, like 10 mistakes you need to stop doing it today itself in your content. Number one, I find most coaches, you know, speaking to commodity problems. You know, now the question is, what is a commodity problem? So a commodity problem is something that can be solved very easily and can be found all over the internet. They can simply Google it or go on YouTube and search for the particular thing, and they would get the outcome. That's what a community problem is. Not necessarily it's a very easy thing to do or a tough, difficult thing to do. It's more of a common thing to do, you know? So example would be, you know, a wrong example. I mean, an example for community problem is if you creating a content on how to use hashtag strategy in my content. Nobody cares about that. They can simply Google it or simply go over YouTube and find it. Or maybe, you know, what kind of a trending music should I be putting out in my content? So if you create a content around how to find and use trending music to get your reels go viral, that's very, very commodity problem and people don't care about it. Your soulmate clients, if you want good messaging, the thing that we discuss here, you got to fix up very well here. Okay, you got to talk non-commodity problems, you know. So a good example would be why you keep attracting clients who ghost you before paying. Now if you search for this particular keyword on Google, on YouTube, you won't get the answer because being a coach, you have experiences by yourself and you're creating content around that. That's not a commodity problem and cannot be found easily everywhere elsewhere, you know. So this is what you have to keep in mind. That's the first thing you should avoid, you know. That is, you're not speaking again to a commodity problem. Cool? Clear, guys? Let me know in the chat if it's clear. Awesome. Let's move on to number two. The second big mistake is I see coaches only focus on external problems, not feelings. This is really important because if your content is not talking to someone internally, they won't read the next line, the next few lines in your content. So think about this. Okay, if you're no matter whatever niche you are in, think about 10 topics in your niche. Okay, and then kind of associate a positive or a negative feeling associate each with each of those topics under your niche. For example, here we have an example, by the way. A wrong example would be you're not getting consistent leads. You know, okay, yeah, this is a good topic to create. You know, how to create content to get consistent leads. But okay, this is good. Yeah, I might need this, but this is not talking to me. This is not having, this hook doesn't have any feelings attached to it. So what if you create a content around this? Like if you wake up, like how to like wake up every day, never worrying about where the next lead is going to come from. or something like that, like you wake up every day worrying where the next lead will come from. This is where you're attaching a feeling to it. And how to do this? As I mentioned earlier, figure out a few topics and attach a positive and negative feeling associated to that particular topic. And you can use that as your hook in your content. Okay, that's the second big mistake I see coaches do. So these are all the traps. Number three, this is a most common that I see, that people feel that okay, they need to educate their audience, they need to provide more value, they need to nurture their audience really well. And if you're doing that, you're kind of creating a culture of freebie seekers, a DIY culture, because people who are going to be using your value content, educational content, they think they can do it by themselves. You're promoting a DIY culture. At the same time, if you're kind of providing them the how-to and the tips and tricks, you're creating freebie seekers in your audience, and you don't want to do that. Like, instead, what you should be doing is you should be creating content that creates shifts in your prospect, belief shift, something that creates a brainwave inception in your prospect's mind and get them to think differently. Okay, wow, this is different. I never knew about this process. Let me see how this guy is doing this particular thing. That what makes a shift walker. So instead of doing educational content, create a shift content. This is one of my big ideas, by the way. Okay, so wrong example would be step one, do this, step two, do this, step three, do this. The good example would be you don't need another funnel. You need to stop overcomplicating your business with strategies that keep you thinking instead of doing. You see, a shift hook here that we have. So that's point number three. Moving on, point number four, speaking to the right version of your audience. Okay, I'm not going to explain this right now because I have a model which I'm going to explain in 5 minutes from now, and was basically show you exactly that this is one of the common mistakes that I see coaches doing. I did this by myself earlier, that I was speaking to, because I felt that okay, my target audience is coaches and consultants, so I should be creating content for coaches and consultants, and that's the wrong thing to do. You should have the right version of your audience, the right version in your niche. So there are different kinds of coaches in my niche, so I should be speaking to only one segment of them. Okay, not speak to all different segments at one time. Clear? Number five. Okay, we have got lots to cover, so I'm going with a bit fast. I hope you can understand it. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat. Number five, confirming the beliefs instead of challenging theirs. This is really important. Like, if you find people, like this happens with me as well, in the past, when I was talking to someone in the DMs and I tell them something, they feel like, okay, I know what to do, don't worry, I know exactly how it needs to be done. uh, that's not the thing. If you find someone letting you know that in the chat, that's because your messaging is not clear and your content is not challenging their beliefs, so they feel they can do it by themselves, so you're creating a DIY culture at full speed. So if you can say something like, you think posting more will get you more clients because that's what people believe, to get more eyeballs. But if that was true, wouldn't you already be booked out by now? They're like, wow, this is something different. Exactly. I post 3 times every day, but still I'm not booked out. So there might be something else. So the content that you create, make sure it's challenging their belief. Now, I'm not saying you got to execute all the 10 points that I'm going to show you here in one piece of content. We're going to make sure we are covering the most of the boxes for each of our content. Okay, that's number five. Number six, you're only speaking about successes, not failures. This is very, very important, because people enjoy successes, and transformational content works really well when they see someone go from zero to hero. But people don't care to share about their vulnerable stories, and that works amazingly well, because you might be successful today, you have 100 clients, right? But a person looking up to you is not there yet. So if you can share your vulnerable stories, they can get resonance, they can feel the resonance, they can feel you. In that case, you're attracting your soulmate clients, the people who believe in you, selling, who are sold into you first. So sharing your stories, sharing your vulnerable stories are more important, than I believe, than sharing your success stories. All right. I understand client wins are important, testimonials are important, but sometimes it's important that you reflect on your journey. That's very, very important. Number seven, sounding generic instead of being very, very specific. This happens a lot. Like, if you want to make content that gets sales, this is a bad example of that. This is a very, very macro topic. Instead, we're going to dive deep and create micro content strategy, like micro topics. Like, for example, I love your content, but I'll never buy. Change this. Just imagine this being your hook. Totally different than what people do, right? So very important, guys. Again, make sure if you're creating content, don't just create a content around a broad topic, a widespread topic. Rather, talk about the micro thing in your niche, which gets which gets you to attract your right kind of people in your world. All right, that's number 7. Number 8. This is very, very important, by the way. Speaking to a label too often instead of an identity. I've done this a lot because I see a lot of coaches doing this. They say, hey coaches, hey consultant, hey busy moms, hey creators, or someone even go a level deeper, like hey dads having a child, hey busy moms working 9 to 5. Where you call out those people on basis of label, and people don't like to be labeled, to be honest. When I see a post which says hey coaches, I don't just go through the read out the corner. I simply close the doc or close the browser, whatever you like to call it, scroll past it as soon as I can. So that's definitely not the right thing to do. Instead, what you're going to do is don't label people out. Instead, call out an identity. An identity is someone which is described by the characteristics, the behaviors, or what is happening in the daily life. I won't say, hey, coaches. I would rather say, hey, if you are already done with X, you believe in Y, and you want to achieve Z, but W is not working. This is what you should be doing. So in this case, I'm not talking about hey coaches. I'm rather talking about someone in the coaching industry who goes through this specific identity, who falls into this particular identity, and that's my soulmate clients, and that's how you dog whistle. All right. Very, very important, guys. You have to keep this in mind. Okay. Number 9, lack of polarization and contrast. Like if you find everyone nodding their head like this, reading your content, you're not doing enough. Shift, belief shifting, I would rather say. So I'm not saying you have to go full controversial mode and make sure everybody is not happy with what you're doing. And I'm not saying you do that or be that guy. Rather, have a nice distinction between what you do and what they do. And which leads us to point number 10, like us versus them. Like if you see some of my posts, I have content which says, coaches versus contrarian coaches, my tribe versus them. And we distinguish exactly how we execute things and how they do their things. And it gets me people towards me, us versus them content is really, really important that you have a clear distinction. I'm going to give you some examples maybe later on the next call to show you some examples of each of them, to how I'm using these components and make sure I'm not making these 10 mistakes in my content. If you're making sure, if you're implementing these 9 or 10 mistakes, you're fixing these mistakes, I would rather say, using the principles, you're going to make sure your content is going to be much better, like much, much better. All right. Now let's work on, if you have to get, let's say we discussed about, where am I? We discussed about good messaging, right? These are things that we need to get the best outcome from our content. So we need to work on our messaging. And to exactly work on the messaging, we can actually use 2 tools in this particular workshop. The first one being the evolution ladder. This is the first step to a great messaging. And I already told you that I'm going to show you a diagram basically explaining this model. All right. So this is one example diagram. This is an evolution ladder, because no matter whatever your niche is, there are 3 segments of audience. There will be audience who are just starting out in your niche. There will be some audience who are in the middle, the overcoming people, the intermediates, the people who are growing, hustling, struggling, but they're somewhere. And then we have people who are already thriving in your niche. So every time you create a content, you're going to make sure that you're creating content either any one of them. You should be creating content that feels great to the overcoming coaches as well as starting coaches as well as thriving coaches, or any 2 or any 3. In that case, you're creating confusion. And remember one thing, guys, confused buyers never buy. If you find your leads are not reaching out to you, that's because you're just confusing them. They're just looking at you as another coach who is doing the same thing, the same shit that what other coaches do. They're trying to create content and calling out each levels in their content. And you shouldn't be doing that. You should be very, very specific to which particular segment you're targeting. For example, I target coaches, right? I'll show an example of business coaching. Example of business coaching evolution ladder. Now, there are different coaches. There are some coaches who are just starting out right now. There's some coaches who are in between, in the overcoming phase, where They feel they're somewhere in, they have already got few clients in, they're making some money, but they're not consistent enough. They exactly need to know exactly the strategies, like how to grow faster. There are already some thriving coaches out there who's making, let's say $30,000 at least a month, and they're looking for something else. Now I got to make sure my content is actually talking to any one of these peers. So if you have to know about me, so every time I create content, I only talk to this overcoming phase, not the rest. Hence, I'm creating clarity in my content, and I'm getting my breed of soulmate clients to reach out to me by dog whistling. That's the most important thing. Now, for a quick example, here is an example of, as I mentioned, for business coach. There will be some coaches who are starting out, and they might be interested in topics like mindset, motivation. Like they don't know how to create a program, how to create a course, how to price their program, how to niche down, because everybody now and then, I see all the, startup coaches, I would rather say, already focus on how to niche further down, how to make myself separate from the rest. They're only focused on that. How to get my first client, how to use Canva to create carousels, how to use hashtags. They're only concerned about those particular topics. If I create content uh, around these topics, I will be only attracting the starter coaches, not the overcoming, not the thriving. Whereas let's look into the overcoming coaches right now. These are the coaches who are somewhere in between, as I said earlier. So they're just focused around, how to transition from one-to-one to groups, how to get clients predictably and consistently, how to have another offer in my offer matrix, how to raise my price right now, how to be better at messaging, how to attract my soulmate clients, because these guys know how to attract clients. What they want to do right now is attract aligned clients, their soulmate clients. So these are the people who are in the overcoming stage right now. So just do one exercise, guys. Draw this out in a piece of paper. Think about, okay, if there are three levels to my niche, which particular level should I be looking at and working with? If you find overcoming is the one, write down 10, 20 topics that comes to your mind randomly, and make sure you're talking about those topics, not something which is below that line or above that line. Okay, this is a quick exercise, guys, that I want you to do in the meantime. All right, not right now, of course. Yeah, is it clear so far? Let me know. Perfect. Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next piece. Thriving. These are the people who are already successful. These are the coaches, by the way. They're focused right now on leadership, how to hire a team, how to manage my taxes, how to increase the renewals, how to build SOPs, how to hire a team, how to increase my monthly recurring revenues, onboarding, profit percentage increase, get more referrals. So these are the topics those people are interested on. So again, it doesn't mean that if you're attracting coaches and consultant, you're going to be creating content for all coaches and consultant. There's levels to that, there's segments to that. Now think about which particular segment that you want to create content for. So that's the first step, to be clear on your messaging. Okay. So this is what kind of a homework I want you guys to do. Clear? Put yes in the chat for me, please. If it's clear, if you have any questions, happy to answer. Cool. Amazing, guys. I hope you're getting value out of it. Perfect. Awesome. All right, guys. So that was the first messaging matrix, like the first thing that we did together, creating your evaluation ladder. First thing. Now, second step is to be clear on your messaging map, which exactly kind of guarantees you that your messaging is going to be amazing. Okay. Now, before I show you that, there's a document. I'm going to send that document to you guys, which includes certain number of questions I want you to answer. You can see. So soul stories, like this is the question, like what are you now on your journey? I mean, where are you now on your journey? What is the transformation you have experienced? What are all the steps you have taken to get there? Number two, what are the major mistakes you've made? What happened as a result? What did you then change to fix it? So different questions out there, as well as some messaging matrix questions like what is your soulmate client's current situation? Where are they already trying, or what are they trying? What should they be doing instead? How do they feel right now? What outcomes do you help them achieve? What are the personal and client results? what are your big ideas, around your industry? Like, what are your philosophy you believe in? What are the values or ideas, your intellectual properties that you believe in? Here's some examples of my ways, like things that I believe in. Like, rather than having multiple offers, you're going to create one offer that can be sold in different ways. That's one of the big ideas that I believe in, you know. So here's an example of big ideas, and here's some questions. So what I want you to do is look at these questions and have at least minimum 6 to 8 points under each of them. So why this is important? Because this is when you do this homework, because I want you guys to do this homework. Just a moment. I want you guys to do this homework because this is really, really crucial, for you to actually execute your content on a part 2 of our workshop, right? So this is really, really key. And if you want to take a look at my examples, here are my examples. Like question 1, here is my answer to that. Question 2, here's my answer to that. And if I go through the messaging map below, and this is not that one time activity that you're going to be doing. This is the thing that I always keep updating every Friday. That's kind of homework for me. You see, what is my soulmate client's current situation? And I want you guys to be very, very, very thorough with this. Like, imagine as if you're going to be taking things out from here directly and putting this in your content directly. You know, so look at some examples, you'll get this. So what is the soulmate client's current situation? The content gets engagement but doesn't convert. They get likes, fire emojis, and comments like love this, great shit. But when it comes to actual buyers, it crickets. People are consuming the content but not taking action, leaving them wondering why is no one reaching out. You see how specific I am? Next example. They don't get inbound DMs from the soulmate clients, hence they tend to rely on outbound methods. But even though they get some inbound DMs that are from the wrong people. So instead of send me the link or invoice clients, they attract people who are interested in selling their services, freebie seekers who don't respond after getting their freebies promised from commenting. You see how specific I am while I'm writing these answers? I want you to be this specific and have at least 6 to 8 points. I have multiple, you see, because I am doing this every day. I have this habit of doing this, but you guys, to create content using my process, creating disrupt content, you need to have at least 8 points, detailed and thorough, under each of the questions here. I have multiple, by the way. Okay. So yeah, this is really important. I'm going to send this document over. So this is a kind of a homework for you. Okay. Fill out the messaging map. I call it the identity blueprint because this is really, really crucial when it comes to uh, be 100% sure and pretty much guarantee that your messaging is going to be great. Because why? Because we're going to be using this document. I have a custom GPT that I'll be leaving it out for our private client that you guys going to be using it. So you're going to be actually uploading this document to the custom GPT that we have made. And the custom GPT will ask you a few questions. You just need to answer them. And the custom GPT will create content leveraging the information that you have in this document, taking things out from here and creating carousel posts, Instagram reels, long form content, everything for you from the scratch. But we're still going to be needing some tweaks here and there to make it amazing. All right. So this is a quick exercise. I won't say quick. I would rather say it's time consuming, but this is really, really important for you guys to do it before we proceed further. Okay. So make sure you do that before we meet again next week. Okay, let's get moving. Now we're going to be talking about your disrupt content blueprint, your entire one-page content map. This is really, really important. Okay. Now, as you can see, amazing diagram that I've drawn here. It includes multiple things. You see blue boxes, green circles, rectangles, stars, and triangles. These are important things. Let me draw it out for you. So at the blue, at the very, very top, just imagine this is your content map. If you have this thing with you, you exactly will be able to know exactly what to post, when to post, and how to post. That's the most important thing. Cool. So first of all, imagine the blue box to be the outcome, the final outcome, the big promise that you deliver for your clients. That's the outcome. Okay. Now, under the outcome pillar, under the outcome umbrella, we have 3 or more. You can have 4 or 3, So they are going to be your pillars, your content pillars. All right. So outcome at the top, we have pillars. Below each of the pillars, you see 5 or 6. You can have 5 or 6 topics under each pillar. So these are your topics in pink. All right. So again, just to recap, the final outcome, multiple pillars that can be combined together to get the final outcome. Now under each pillar there will be multiple topics. Now imagine this. This is a pillar. Here are the multiple topics. Now to support someone to get the result from this pillar, there has to be one particular mechanism that you use. Don't worry, I'm going to show you example very soon. So these are mechanisms. The stars that you see are mechanisms. Like what is your process? What is your framework to get that thing done? I'll give you an example so it will make sense at the end. Okay. And finally, we have the triad. I call it the identity triad. Where, as you can see, the triangle, three sides. So it includes your proof, your stories, and your big ideas together. Creates your identity triad. Because every content that you create, should belong to a particular pillar, should have a particular topic under that pillar, should come from a particular topic under that pillar, should have one particular mechanism, a framework to help people on that particular topic. And to support the mechanism, there has to be a story involved, there has to be a big idea involved, and there has to be a proof, if possible, involved. So if you have all this, like this diagram in place, you will exactly know your content. This is your content map. You'll be able to execute content directly, choosing things out from this particular map, one pager map, and putting the things into the chat GPT using that custom GPT that we're going to be providing you to create the best content possible. And within 72 hours, you're going to get inbound leads rolling into you. That's amazing, right? Guys, hope you're excited right now. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to dive into each of them and explain each of the pillar, like each of the things here, as you can see in the content map. The first in the blue is the outcome, right? Now, what is the outcome? What is the big promise, the ultimate goal people will get in your program? So in my case, I help coaches and consultants attract pre-sold inbound soulmate clients without force, without following and funnels, I would rather say. So that's my outcome. I will help you get your soulmate clients and attract your soulmate clients inbound without having to reach out to people, having a huge following, or even using funnels nowadays. So that's the final big promise. Now you guys might have your own big promise. So make sure you're gonna print this out and write the thing down here. What is the outcome that you guys promise? Okay, that's the first thing. Next in green, as you can see, we have the pillars. Now this is really, really important for you to understand. Pillars, you have to create your pillars like this, which is very, very important. Because I don't know about your offer. So by the way, on the left, you see a signal where we are at right now. So we are talking about pillars here. Okay. So in your offer, you might have multiple phases, a structure in your offer. Now, my private clients know about this because in my offer, we have different phases. Like there is a build phase, there's a market phase, there's a sell phase, and there's a scale phase. So in the build phase, that's just a phase of in my offer. I have one particular content pillar. I make sure that every content pillar that you're creating should be a how-to pillar. What I mean by that is, if in my build phase, in my offer, there's a structure, the build phase, the goal here is to help people to show them like how to craft a $3K to $10,000 offer that can be sold in multiple ways. That's the final outcome of that particular phase in my offer. Then I have a market phase. So you can consider these as the modules in your program, like your phases under which you can have multiple videos, right? So each of the phases will have one outcome, which is going to be your how-to pillar. Then market, I will teach you like how to create content that attracts inbound pre-sold soulmate clients. Okay, this is what my Disrupt Content Workshop is all about, right? So make sure do one thing, guys. Look into your program right now, divide that into 4 phases. In build phase, I actually help people to create offer. In market phase, I actually help people how to attract people. In sell phase, I actually help people to sell their program. And in scale phase, I actually help them to scale, right? To the $1 million a year. So there are different phases. Now think about what can be one particular outcome that can be designed from each phases of your offer. And then use a how-to statement which is going to be specific enough to be your content pillars. So these four are my content pillars. Now you might be wondering, okay, Arpan, instead of saying, how to create content that attracts inbound pre-sold soulmate clients, instead of saying this as my content pillar, I could have simply said, content creation is my content pillar, offer creation is a content pillar, lead generation is a content pillar, and you know, sales and scaling together can be a content pillar. That's a wrong way to do it. And that's what I find most people do it. Instead, I'm going to use the how-to principle to create my content pillars so that when I know, okay, how to create content that attracts inbound pre-sold soulmate client is my pillar, the topics within it, underneath it would be exactly the step-by-step approach that has to be taken to get this particular outcome, which is how to create content that attracts inbound pre-sold soulmate clients. If I was randomly saying, creating content is a pillar, underneath as a topics, I would have random thing like hooks, naming like how to find music for my content, trending music, hashtags to use on the content. Those will be my topics under my pillar. And next time you have to go post, I look into my content map and choose a random topic from the pillar. And the pillar, let's say the topic is how to use hashtags. So I will be creating a content around that. In that case, I'm talking to a commodity problem, how to use hashtag in your content, right? Instead of doing that, mention like one final specific how to pillar, and then your topics would be exactly like micro steps or the baby steps that needs to be taken care of to get to the how to outcome, which is the how to pillar, the final outcome. Make sense? This is how you're going to be designing your how to pillars. Any question, guys, in the chat? Yeah, exactly. Exactly, brother. 100% spot on. Your how to pillars would exactly show people. Yeah, exactly. As you mentioned here in the chat, the topics would be exactly the next steps or the baby steps they should be carrying out to get the final outcome, which is the pillars. So, pillars is the outcome, and topics are the steps to get to that outcome. That's the reason we're not using content strategy as a pillar. Rather, we're using the how to principle, align that with the content to kind of create a principle for us, like a pillar for us. Okay, makes sense? Yeah, exactly. These are the four pillars in my business. How to craft 3K to 10K offer that can be sold in multiple ways. If that's my pillar, I know exactly what are the things that needs to be taken care of to get there. So those are the things will be my topic. So you see right now, I'm not talking about a commodity problem. I'm talking about a very specific thing that people don't know about, right? If you can go and search in Google, like how to craft a 3K to 10K offer that can be sold in multiple ways, you won't get an answer because that's what I teach. I know the answer. Hence, I'll mention those as topics. So I'm creating content from the topic right now, and that's very, very specific. Make sense? All right, let's move on. So that was your content pillars. This is how you're going to create your pillars, okay? How to pillars. Next, as I already told you about the topics, here are some examples, okay? If this is my how to pillar, so on the left, you can see we are now working on the topics. So how to craft a 3K to 10K offer that can be sold in multiple ways. If this is the how to pillar, this is going to be my topics. Like you have to know exactly how to position your offer. You need to know your dream client identity. You have to build your client success pathway. You need to know exactly how to align the client success pathway with deliverables and your unique mechanisms to get there. So if I have to create content right now and choose a topic, I know these are the topics people were not talking about. They are not commodity problems at all. They're very, very specific micro things. Okay, so this is how you will come up with your topics under each of the pillars. Make sense? Awesome. Let's move on. Now we're going to talk about the mechanism. If you remember the model, pillars, within pillars, we had multiple topics. Now for each pillar, there has to be one particular mechanism to support the outcome, which is the pillar, how to pillar, right? So my private client knows this. So if I actually help people create a 3K to 10K offer that can be sold in multiple ways. And the mechanism that I choose to do that is what I call the offer orbit. Whereas in the content, if I'm teaching you how to create content that attracts inbound pre-sold soulmate clients, and the mechanism that I have to teach you to get there is disrupt content. That's what I'm teaching you in this workshop right now. So this is what you need, disrupt content principles to make sure you get this particular outcome. Now, there will be some topics within it, around the principles. So you got to have at least one mechanism under each of your pillars. Very, very crucial, guys, because this is what we're going to be using. Because if you look at the content pillar right now, we have the pillar a topic. So how we create content? We choose a pillar first. We choose the topic. Then after choosing the topic, we align the mechanism, and then we include the triad together to come up with the content. Okay, from your messaging map document, as well as leveraging our custom chat GPT model. Okay, that's your mechanism, and you should be having at least one mechanism for each of your pillars. Next, the identity triad. So the three things in the identity triad are proof, your stories, and your big ideas combined together creates resonance with your audience. These are three things that can be, when it's done properly, your audience will be sold onto you, your ideas. So your program becomes the right next step for them. All right. So you got to collect your proofs. List out all the proofs for each of the pillars and mechanisms. Like, for example, if I'm talking about this particular pillar and this topics and this mechanism, disrupt content, um, I have a lot of people saying, hey, your content strategy is amazing. Even a small message that like that, I'll take a screenshot of that and put in a repository or in a folder. I can leverage that. So no matter how many, like if someone says, hey, Arpan, I got some 3 inbound leads from the content strategy, that is a proof under this particular pillar and under this particular mechanism, disrupt content, right? So you got to collect proofs for each of the pillars, each of the mechanisms. That makes your job much easier. So next time when you create content, you don't have to worry about proof because you already have all of those things with you. Okay. So that's first thing in the triad. The next is list out your big ideas. Like list out your big ideas for each of the pillars, right? Very, very important. Now, if you look at the messaging map, the document that I'm going to send you, the identity blueprint, there is a section where it says, list down your big ideas. Okay. And here are some of my big ideas, like the things that I believe in. So there will be like 2 or 3, maximum 3 big ideas. You can go beyond that, no worries. But I have at least 3 big ideas under each of the pillars. If you look at the diagram, so if I have to choose a big idea for this pillar, for this particular line, for this mechanism, I have 3 big ideas. For the next one, I have 2 or 3 big ideas. Okay. So for example, here are some example of my big ideas, the philosophy that you believe in. Like rather than like, this is a big idea that I have from the left-hand side, which is my pillar number 1, how my offer orbit pillar, right? My offer orbit mechanism. That is, rather than having multiple offers, create one that can be sold in many ways. That's my big idea, right? Next, sales tactics won't fix a broken offer. Most sales problems are just content problems in disguise. Now, this is a big idea that goes well with the offer, pillar as well as the content pillar. So your big ideas can be used under each of the segments, each of the pillars. Okay, that's no worries with that. Some more examples would be stop value content, create shift content, because value content attracts freebie seekers, shift content attracts your soulmate clients. That's my big idea. I say don't do educational content. Next, don't do viral, don't go and you don't have to go viral. You don't need to focus on getting viral, because if you're going viral, you're getting maximum eyeballs. It's going to get you maximum freebie seekers in your profile, and it's going to affect you in the longer run. Instead, dog whistle and attract few people who are your aligned people. That's what you care about, right? So those are my big ideas, and that's a big idea around content pillar, right? Now look into this. Stop trying to convince, start disqualifying, because the right ones will come to you. You don't have to qualify them at all. So that comes under this pillar, the sales pillar, that I have, which is what I call the mechanism is called the inertia selling. All right. So you got to list down how many big ideas did you have that can be filled on that particular document that I gave you. Okay. So you need to be clear on your big ideas. And next is the stories around that pillar and around that mechanism and big ideas. Like, for example, I have a story, and as I mentioned, my big idea is that I believe in having one offer that can be sold in multiple ways rather than having multiple offers. So I have a story for that, like how I transitioned from multiple offers, struggling, then moving on to the low ticket offer, and then I only have one high ticket offer that I'm selling in multiple ways. I have a story around it, like what happened, what didn't happen, what went right, what went wrong, a story about it that I always use in my content. So for each pillars, try to have at least 2 stories for each. You can have more, but list down all the stories that can be associated for your pillars. Again, if you look at the document, there are first 10 questions that ask you about the different stories possible for different scenarios. Just answer those questions and you'll get the stories for yourself. Okay, so this is how it's structured, by the way. pillar. So at the first, we have the outcome, pillars, topics, mechanism, and proof, story, and big ideas combined together to creating your entire content map. Okay, so now you have a clear content map, a content map that, as I mentioned, which will align with your offer and your soulmate clients. Use this one page strategy as your compass to get leads and your ideas to even you can enter this and copy and paste the document that I'm going to give you into ChatGPT to help you to work it. Like 80% of the work will be done, as amazing it is. Okay. So for example, now what I'm going to show you right now is this is the model I want you to look at and create it, because this is what is your one pager, right? Which includes everything that we discussed right now. Take your time to fill this out, because this is the one content map. Every time you're going to create content, you're going to look at this and figure out, okay, what particular topic I'm going to using under which pillar. Okay, this is the mechanism that I'm using. Okay, what story I'm going to be using within that. Okay, what is the proof I have that I'm going to choose, and what is the big item I'm going to choose. You're going to compile all that, put it into the custom GPT I give you. You get the best results, and then you're going to tweak something here and there to create content. How amazing is that? So, so those are the things that you keep in mind, and make sure you are, the kind of homework for you, execution homework for you would be, number one, fill out that identity blueprint, the messaging map. That's very, very important for you guys to do it, and make sure you're writing it down properly, thorough, and be as good as you can. So you can simply copy and paste that into your content. It should be that good. Okay. If you're not clear, if you're being vague there, the output will not be amazing, and hence then you can't blame me. And if you say, but I'm not getting inbound leads, that's one of the reasons, because your messaging is not clear. Hence, you will get the sense of those bad feelings that you get from your bad messaging, right? So you gotta execute on that. And number two, create your one pager which has topics, pillars, uh, your mechanism, as well as your triad, I would rather say. All right. So I hope that this was helpful, guys. Any questions? Or what I'm thinking is, instead of taking questions right now, as you guys know, there will be a bonus section, where there will be a Q&A call, right? And what I'm thinking is, today we are done the workshop part one, where we discuss strategy. You can go to the roadmap real quick. If you go to the roadmap real quick, what we did is we figured out the leaks in your content. We exactly showed you two ways to kind of fill the gap, flip the signal. That's number one, is creating that if you remember the triangle, evolution ladder, and talking to one segment of audience, if you're clear on that, and then creating your identity blueprint worksheet, fill that out. So your messaging is very, very clear right now. And then we have also built your one pager content map. Now you're clear about exactly what and how the one pager content map should look like. And if you're done executing that, hit me up. Always willing to look into that and give you feedback. Maybe some things that might have to be changed. I'll be honest with you guys, so that you get results. That's what I'm looking for. And that's part one, pretty much. Part two next week, most probably on Wednesday or Thursday, I'll let you guys know. We'll be talking about the strategy itself to create content, then how to create the content, and then how to get inbound leads from the content. That's the agenda for part two. I hope this was useful, guys. If you have any questions, hit me up in the chat. I'm always there to answer your questions, or write down in the comments below this video. Always there to help. See you in the next one. Ciao. Take care. Bye bye.